Confidence without chaos. That's what draws her in. The kind of man who moves through the world without needing permission, who doesn't shout his value but radiates it quietly through his presence. Women feel this energy long before words are spoken. It's not about arrogance or dominance, it's about the grounded stillness of a man who knows who he is, what he stands for, and what he will never tolerate. When a man carries that kind of certainty, it creates a gravitational pull that no charm or looks can replace. Attraction for women begins where emotional safety meets challenge. She's not drawn to perfection, she's drawn to realness, a man who has seen pain and turned it into power. The way you handle your storms becomes the measure of your depth. When you can be calm when others panic, centered when others crumble, she feels something rare, a sense of stability in a world that constantly shifts. That's what turns her on at the deepest level. The man who stands unshaken, not because he's unhurt, but because he's mastered himself. She doesn't crave a man who needs to prove his worth. She craves a man who has already found it within. You can't fake that kind of energy. It's the result of doing the inner work, facing your shadows, healing your insecurities, and no longer seeking validation from anyone. When you no longer chase attention, attention starts chasing you. When you stop performing, your authenticity becomes magnetic. That's the paradox most never understand. The less you try to impress, the more impressive you become. There's something intoxicating about a man who moves with quiet purpose. He doesn't rush, he doesn't force. He's not desperate to be chosen because he already chose himself. His life has direction. His actions align with his values. Every decision he makes feels intentional. That kind of discipline creates a rare frequency that women instantly sense. It speaks louder than looks, status, or money. It tells her this man cannot be swayed by the superficial. It tells her his power isn't for sale. The truth is, women are drawn to energy, not appearance. They respond to how you make them feel, not what you say. And the man who makes her feel safe enough to be soft, yet challenged enough to stay intrigued, becomes unforgettable. This balance of strength and emotional awareness is what separates boys from men. She wants to feel that you see her, not just look at her, that you listen not just to her words but to her silence, that your presence doesn't consume her, it calms her. When you can hold your ground in the face of beauty, you shift the dynamic completely. You stop reacting to her and start leading with your energy. And leadership in this sense is not control, it's composure. It's the art of guiding the emotional tone of every interaction through your self-control. A woman feels turned on by the man whose emotions don't collapse under pressure, whose eyes show direction, not confusion, whose words are few but carry weight. You become that man not by chasing women, but by chasing mastery. Mastery of your mind, your emotions, your purpose. You become magnetic by being whole. Because the moment you no longer need her to feel powerful, she begins to feel your power, what truly makes a woman feel drawn to a man beyond physical attraction. What awakens that deep, unexplainable desire that makes her heart race and her guard drop. It's not the muscles, the money, or the smile, it's something far more powerful. It's the energy a man carries, the quiet confidence that speaks louder than words, the emotional strength that doesn't demand attention, yet commands it effortlessly. Every woman feels it instinctively, even if she can't describe it. It's the feeling of being in the presence of a man who knows who he is and refuses to bend just to be liked. Most men spend their lives chasing external approval. They think attraction is built on what they can offer, what they can show, or what they can prove. But the truth is, the more you try to prove your worth, the less worthy you appear. Because neediness in any form kills attraction. A woman can sense when a man is trying to earn her attention instead of owning his presence. And the difference between the two is everything. One comes from emptiness, the other comes from power. A man who is centered, grounded, and self-assured doesn't chase. He invites. He doesn't seek validation. He validates himself through his actions, his purpose, and his peace. That's what turns women on at their core. a man who doesn't need them to feel complete. Because when a man no longer seeks wholeness in a woman, his energy becomes magnetic. He stands out not because he tries to, but because his presence makes others feel something rare. Safety mixed with challenge, peace wrapped in intensity. You see, attraction isn't about what you say, it's about what your energy communicates before you ever open your mouth. A confident man moves differently. He breathes differently. His silence carries weight. His words have intention. He's not trying to impress. He's simply expressing who he is. And that's what women crave on a level they can't even explain. It's the authenticity that pierces through every fake smile, every filtered image, every act of pretense. It's the masculine stillness that reminds her she can finally relax, that she's in the presence of someone who doesn't need to pretend. The world has taught you to chase love, to impress, to compete, but real power doesn't chase, it attracts. Real connection doesn't beg, it inspires. When you stop looking for her to validate you, you begin to embody the version of yourself that women naturally desire. Not because you're trying to win them over, but because your energy now carries truth. You've stopped hiding, you've stopped performing, you've started becoming. Stay here, because this journey isn't about learning how to manipulate attraction. It's about mastering yourself. It's about awakening the energy within you that makes women turn their heads and feel something they can't explain. It's about becoming a man who moves with purpose, speaks with conviction, and lives from inner peace. When you reach that state, attraction isn't something you create, it's something you become. By the end of this, you'll understand why some men can walk into a room and instantly command attention without saying a word. You'll understand what truly turns women on, not from the surface, but from the soul. And once you embody that energy, you'll never have to chase again. Because when you become the source, everything else begins to move toward you. Perfect. Would you like me to continue writing section 2 in the same emotionally intense, psychology-driven tone? 500 to 600 words, seamlessly continuing from this first section? Got it. Whenever you're ready for the next section or any other part of the script, just say continue and I'll carry it forward in the same tone and flow. The truth is, women are not drawn to the man who tries to please them. They are drawn to the man who is not afraid to lose them. Because that man radiates something rare, freedom. He carries himself as if his value is already written into his being, and that energy changes everything. When you operate from a place of freedom, your presence feels different. You don't cling. You don't chase. You don't negotiate your worth for temporary attention. You are complete within yourself, and that completeness is the foundation of real attraction. A woman senses when a man's emotions are tethered to her reactions. When your mood shifts based on her approval, she feels it. When your confidence depends on her response, she knows it. That's why detachment is powerful, not the cold kind that shuts down emotion, but the strong kind that comes from emotional control. When you can care deeply without losing yourself, you become the kind of man every woman respects, even if she can't fully explain why. Confidence isn't loud, it doesn't boast, it doesn't need to dominate a room. True confidence is stillness. It's the ability to sit in silence and not feel awkward. It's the comfort of knowing that your worth doesn't fluctuate with external validation. It's being rooted so deeply in who you are that no rejection can shake your center. That energy doesn't just attract women. It commands the respect of everyone around you. Because when a man can master himself, he automatically changes the atmosphere he walks into. Every woman feels the difference between a man who seeks attention and a man who gives presence. Attention tries to be noticed. Presence cannot be ignored. Attention demands something from others. Presence gives something to them, a sense of calm, direction, and grounded energy. That's why women are drawn to men who move with purpose. Purpose builds presence, and presence creates attraction. When you live a life guided by direction, not distraction, you stop trying to impress and start inspiring. You become magnetic when your actions reflect consistency. when your words align with your behavior, when your emotions are steady even when the world tests your limits. A woman finds that deeply attractive, not because she wants to be controlled, but because she wants to feel safe in the presence of a man who controls himself. When she looks at you and senses that your emotions don't waver at every storm, she subconsciously relaxes. She feels she can trust your strength, not your image. Your goal should never be to make her want you. Your goal should be to embody the energy that naturally evokes desire, an energy built on self-respect, emotional discipline, and a relentless commitment to purpose. The man who lives by principle never needs to prove his value. He knows that real power doesn't come from chasing, it comes from alignment. When your mind, heart, and actions move in harmony, you radiate something unshakable, something every woman feels before you even speak. When you stop trying to be chosen, you start choosing yourself. And that shift, that quiet revolution inside you, changes everything. It's what transforms attraction into admiration, and admiration into desire. Because at the end of the day, what truly turns a woman on isn't your looks or your charm. It's your presence. The kind of presence that doesn't just take up space, but changes the air around you. The kind of presence that says, without words, I know who I am, and I don't need you to remind me. A woman can sense the difference between a man who wants her attention and a man who deserves it. The first seeks approval, the second commands respect. What turns her on isn't the effort to impress, but the quiet authority of a man who no longer competes for validation. He walks into a room without needing to be noticed, yet his presence speaks louder than words. His calm is power, his self-control is confidence, his purpose is desire in motion. And that's the energy that makes her curious, that makes her drawn to understand what fuels that stillness inside him. The most magnetic men are not perfect, they are aware. They've made peace with their flaws, their pain, their failures. They've learned to turn insecurity into insight, weakness into wisdom, chaos into calm. That inner work creates a stability that no surface-level charm can imitate. Women are deeply intuitive. They can feel authenticity instantly. When you're genuine, she relaxes. When you're centered, she opens up. When you're grounded, she lets her guard fall. Because a woman doesn't fall for a man's perfection. She falls for his presence, for the way his energy makes her feel more herself. The masculine energy that attracts is never about dominance. It's about direction. It's about being decisive when the world is uncertain, being composed when emotions run high, being focused when everyone else is distracted. That direction creates trust, and trust is the most powerful form of attraction. She doesn't need you to have all the answers, she just needs to feel that you won't lose yourself when life tests you. The way you hold your center during conflict, disappointment, and challenge tells her everything she needs to know about your strength. Every man wants to be admired, but few are willing to become admirable. That transformation begins the moment you stop chasing outcomes and start mastering your state of being. When you stop reacting to every test, every mood, every fleeting emotion, you shift from boyhood into manhood. You begin to lead your own energy. You speak less but say more. You stop explaining and start embodying. That shift doesn't just change how women see you, it changes how you see yourself. Because true confidence isn't given by others, it's discovered through discipline. To a woman, the most attractive thing isn't a man's words, but the energy behind them. You can't fake peace. You can't pretend focus. You can't rehearse purpose. She feels the truth of your vibration before she understands your logic. If you're anxious, she senses it. If you're uncertain, she feels it. But when you stand in your calm, when your energy carries no desperation, no need to be liked or validated, something inside her awakens. She feels your strength without you needing to display it. She feels your presence without you needing to perform. Attraction is a reflection of your inner world. The more aligned you are with your own purpose, the more naturally people align with you. When you live for something bigger than yourself, your energy expands. And that expansion is what draws her in. It's not manipulation, it's magnetism. The quiet kind that doesn't pull through words, but through presence. Because when your life becomes a statement of strength, focus, and peace, you no longer need to convince anyone of your value. They'll feel it before you speak. Every woman feels it when a man carries himself with certainty. It's an energy that can't be taught or copied because it comes from deep inner alignment. It's the quiet confidence of someone who's done the work, the man who has faced his darkness and didn't run, who is lost and rebuilt, who has fallen and risen stronger every time. That depth creates a vibration that doesn't need to speak loudly to be felt. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. And when a woman senses that kind of awareness, she can't help but be drawn to it. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel the energy of a man who is unshaken by her beauty, unmoved by her tests, and unbothered by her reactions. It's not that she doesn't want you to feel for her, she just wants to feel that your emotions don't own you, that your world doesn't collapse when she pulls away, that your peace doesn't depend on her presence. This is what turns women on at the level of instinct, emotional control, grounded masculinity, the kind of energy that says, I choose to care, but I will never beg. When you reach that point, you've become rare. Because in a world full of men chasing approval, the one who stays still stands out. Self-control is one of the highest forms of attraction. It's power wrapped in calm. When you can look at chaos and remain steady, you signal strength. When you can feel desire yet remain disciplined, you communicate mastery. A man who can lead himself emotionally can lead any relationship naturally. And that's what awakens feminine trust. The knowledge that no matter what happens, you won't lose your center. You can hold your ground without holding her back. You can lead without controlling. You can guide without forcing. That's the balance that makes her feel safe and alive at the same time. There's a difference between being emotionally available and being emotionally unstable. One builds connection, the other destroys it. You must be open enough to feel but strong enough not to drown in what you feel. You must listen without absorbing her chaos. You must care without losing your clarity. This is where true masculine energy lives, in the balance between empathy and boundaries. When you master that balance, you become the man every woman feels she can surrender to. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. The essence of attraction is not performance, it's authenticity expressed through strength. You don't win her by pretending to be unbreakable. You attract her by showing that even when you break, you rebuild without bitterness. You stay kind without being weak. You stay calm without being cold. You show emotion without losing power. That's what it means to embody presence. To be the eye of the storm, not the wind that fuels it. When your energy carries peace, everything around you starts to align. You stop trying to convince anyone of your worth because your worth is already reflected in your composure. You stop explaining your intentions because your actions speak louder. And you stop fearing loss because what's meant for your growth will always stay. That's the paradox of attraction. The moment you no longer need to hold on is the moment everything begins to move toward you. There's something deeply magnetic about a man who moves through life with intention. Every step he takes, every word he speaks, every choice he makes feels deliberate. He's not drifting, he's directing. And that sense of direction is what women feel long before they even understand why they're drawn to him. Purpose has a frequency. You can't fake it. You can't imitate it. It's built through discipline, forged in solitude, and refined through pain. When a man walks with purpose, he carries the weight of meaning. That weight gives him gravity, and gravity pulls everything meant for him closer. A woman doesn't fall for potential, she falls for presence. And purpose gives a man presence that no surface quality can match. When you're living for something beyond approval, beyond status, beyond instant gratification, your energy changes, your eyes carry clarity, your movements slow down, your words hold truth. That's what makes her lean in, not because you're performing, but because you're alive with direction. A man with purpose doesn't need to chase excitement, he creates it. He doesn't need validation, his mission validates him. That's the kind of man who makes her feel safe and inspired at the same time. Without purpose, everything else becomes performance. You'll try to impress with words, with looks, with possessions, but none of it will feel stable. Because deep down, without a vision guiding your steps, your energy feels hollow. Women feel that emptiness even before you speak. The masculine energy that turns them on is not the energy of effort, it's the energy of embodiment. A man who knows why he wakes up every day radiates something rare. His confidence isn't borrowed from compliments, it's built from consistency. His power doesn't come from control, it comes from clarity. Purpose transforms how you show up in every interaction. When you know where you're going, you stop needing others to complete you. You stop depending on attention to feel seen. You stop confusing validation with connection. You begin to operate from abundance, not the kind measured by wealth, but by depth. You give instead of chase. You attract instead of demand. And the more you align with your purpose, the more irresistible your energy becomes. Because a man who moves towards something greater than himself automatically becomes greater than his fears, his doubts, and his past. A woman feels most drawn to a man who challenges her simply by being himself, not by games, not by words, but by example. When she sees a man disciplined in his mission, unshaken by distraction, and unwavering in his focus, it awakens something in her. She feels his stability, she feels his fire. It's not his success that pulls her in, it's the energy of a man who refuses to be lost. That energy creates polarity, the natural dance between masculine direction and feminine flow. It's not manipulation, it's magnetism. Purposeful men are rare because most people seek comfort, not clarity. But clarity is what separates attraction from attachment. It's what transforms fleeting interest into lasting respect. When you move through life with vision, you stop being one of many, you become one of one. And that's what truly turns a woman on, not what you have, but who you've become. The man who knows his path doesn't compete for attention, he becomes the destination. A man's true power isn't measured by what he can control, but by what he can remain calm through. It's not about dominance, it's about emotional command, the ability to stand steady while everything around him shifts. That kind of control doesn't suppress emotion, it refines it. It takes the raw chaos inside and turns it into focus, patience, and quiet strength. And that strength doesn't go unnoticed. Women can feel it like heat beneath the surface. It's not something you show, it's something you carry. It's the way you breathe when others panic, the way you listen without needing to speak, the way you stay composed when tested. That calm presence tells her she's in the presence of a man who isn't ruled by impulse. In a world where emotions are often tossed around recklessly, composure has become a rare language of power. Most men react, few respond, and that difference changes everything. Reaction is born from insecurity, response is born from mastery. When you stop reacting to every emotion, every comment, every test, you become unshakable. You stop being predictable. You stop being controlled. You start leading energy instead of being consumed by it. And that's when your presence becomes magnetic. Because nothing draws a woman in like a man whose peace cannot be disturbed by her storms. The strongest attraction isn't physical, it's energetic. When a woman feels your stability, she naturally wants to move closer to it. Not because she needs saving, but because strength invites surrender. Your composure gives her space to be vulnerable. Your calm allows her to let go of control. The feminine can only truly soften in the presence of grounded masculinity. And that's the paradox. The softer your energy feels, the stronger your presence becomes. Because true masculinity isn't about dominance, it's about direction, security, and emotional depth that cannot be manipulated. To reach that level, you must master silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of power. the ability to observe before acting, to feel before reacting, to think before speaking. That silence is your weapon, your filter, your advantage. It shows restraint, and restraint communicates control. A man who doesn't rush to prove himself holds an energy that women instinctively trust. His confidence is measured, not manic. His attention is intentional, not scattered. He doesn't need to win every interaction, because he's already won the battle within himself. When you can stay calm in discomfort, you gain a magnetic authority. You become unpredictable in a world addicted to reaction. You stand out not by effort, but by essence. And that's what truly turns her on. The realization that your emotions don't own you. That you can desire her deeply without being desperate. That your interest doesn't shake your foundation. It's in that balance of passion and control that attraction transforms into admiration. The man who rules himself rules his world. His focus sharpens, his energy expands, his influence grows. He becomes the anchor in chaos, the calm in confusion, the light in uncertainty. And when a woman stands before that kind of man, she feels something she can't name but can't ignore. Safety wrapped in strength, peace fused with passion. That's the essence of true masculine allure. Not noise, not display, but unshakable inner order that no external storm can break. There is an undeniable power in mystery, not the kind that hides, but the kind that reveals only what is earned. A man who doesn't expose everything about himself all at once commands curiosity. His energy isn't scattered, it's focused, deliberate, and controlled. He gives glimpses, not explanations. His silence isn't distance, it's discipline. Every word, every gesture, every moment he shares feels intentional, and that's what makes his presence unforgettable. A woman doesn't crave to know everything about him. She craves the experience of discovering him layer by layer. That slow reveal builds tension, attraction, and respect all at once. Mystery is not about playing games. It's about understanding value. When something is easily accessible, it loses its impact. When everything is given freely, nothing feels earned. A man who values his energy, his attention, his time, naturally becomes more desirable. Because he isn't trying to be understood by everyone. He's focused on being aligned with himself. And that self-respect radiates an energy that women feel immediately. She knows he's not available to everyone. She knows he's selective with his energy. And that awareness creates the pull, not because he's withholding, but because he's intentional. Mystery fuels attraction because it forces presence. When you reveal less, people pay more attention to what you do share. Your words carry more weight. Your actions feel more meaningful. That's what women respond to on a subconscious level. They crave depth, not noise. They crave emotional layers, not rehearsed lines. They crave a man whose life doesn't revolve around seeking attention, but around pursuing purpose. That kind of man doesn't chase validation, he creates gravity. His quiet confidence invites curiosity, and curiosity is the seed of desire. Every man who radiates power understands this. You don't need to be loud to be felt. You don't need to prove to be respected. Your restraint is your dominance. Your ability to hold back what others are desperate to share is a form of control few possess. When you can remain composed while others overshare, when you can remain grounded while others seek reaction, your energy rises above the noise. That's when you become magnetic, because attraction doesn't thrive in chaos. It thrives in clarity and calmness. Women are drawn to men who live with emotional precision, who know when to speak, when to listen, and when to say nothing at all. A man who isn't afraid of silence creates space for depth. That space makes her feel seen in ways words never could, because silence allows connection to breathe. It allows her to feel his presence without pressure. That's why mystery isn't manipulation, it's mastery. Mastery of energy, intention, and emotion. It's the art of being fully available without being completely exposed. The less you try to explain yourself, the more your essence speaks for you. The less you try to prove your worth, the more valuable your energy becomes. Because true mystery isn't about distance. It's about depth. It's about being so grounded in who you are that you don't need to show everything to be understood. That's what turns women on. The sense that there's more to you than meets the eye, that your depth is endless, that your energy holds secrets only life and experience could create. Mystery keeps the mind curious and the heart engaged. It reminds her that real men don't chase attention. They become the story worth chasing. What truly captivates a woman is not what you do, but the energy with which you do it, the way you stand, the tone in your voice, the stillness in your eyes. These are not techniques, they are reflections of inner alignment. When a man carries himself with self-respect, every movement communicates power without effort. He doesn't need to announce who he is. His presence says it for him. Confidence stops being an act and becomes an aura. That is what women feel before they even process it. They don't fall for your appearance, they fall for how your presence makes them feel about themselves. Every woman feels magnetically drawn to emotional certainty. When you know what you want and stand firmly in that truth, it gives her permission to relax into her own authenticity. The feminine naturally responds to direction, to clarity, to leadership that comes from compassion rather than control. When your energy is steady, she feels she can be soft. When your words are measured, she feels she can be open. It's not dominance that attracts her, it's depth. It's the emotional maturity that says, I am grounded enough to hold space for both of us. That level of presence cannot be faked because it doesn't come from practice, it comes from peace. You reach that peace by eliminating confusion within yourself. You decide who you are and live it. You stop chasing what doesn't align and stop explaining yourself to those who cannot understand your purpose. The more you refine your boundaries, the stronger your energy becomes. And that strength is what calls to her on a primal level. She feels your certainty. She senses your discipline. She sees that your focus is not driven by ego but by intention. A man who knows what he stands for becomes unforgettable because he brings structure to a world filled with chaos. The attraction isn't just about how you make her feel, it's about what she senses in you that reminds her of something timeless, the unshakable presence of a man rooted in truth. You don't flinch when tested. You don't fold under pressure. You don't let temporary emotions dictate your value. That restraint, that discipline, that steadiness, it speaks louder than words ever could. A woman doesn't need perfection, she needs to feel your power without arrogance, your confidence without noise, your affection without dependency. That's the essence of mature attraction. Strength balanced with sensitivity. Most men misunderstand this balance. They think being strong means being emotionless, but real strength is emotional intelligence in action. It's the ability to feel deeply and still remain steady. It's being aware of your emotions without being ruled by them. A man who can express emotion without losing control doesn't lose respect. He gains it, because it takes far more courage to be open than to hide. And when you show that kind of vulnerability from a place of strength, it pulls her closer. She sees the power in your honesty. She feels the truth in your calm. She senses the depth in your restraint. When you operate from this level of awareness, your presence becomes unforgettable. You don't need to chase attraction. You become it. Your energy carries certainty. Your actions reflect integrity. Your silence speaks confidence. And without even realizing it, you begin to embody what every woman is drawn to but few men ever master. A man whose strength is silent, whose confidence is effortless, and whose presence makes everything around him feel more alive.